formaldehyde. We now have learned in the last few months that formaldehyde is a significant problem with shale drilling. And formaldehyde is a known human carcinogen, and it's significant coming from shale drilling. So this is just on ozone. I ran the numbers based on American Lung Association estimates, $2,010. They're not inflation adjusted, but $2,010 is close enough. The Barnett Shale region in North Texas is costing $73 million per annum just from ozone problems from gas drilling. Fayetteville, just from ozone problems, $33.5 million per annum. $32 million in Pennsylvania and the Marcellus, and the agricultural losses, and this is a very conservative estimate. I want to do more work on this because I know this is ultra conservative. Nevertheless, right now, the numbers that I've crunched come up to about $26 million in crop damages per annum in these regions. And this is just from ozone. Okay, so we haven't run any numbers on cancer problems and things like that, and formaldehyde and benzene and so forth. So as you can see, that's a little bit of a problem. And these costs, these road damages and these health costs, these are costs that taxpayers or local businesses are going to have to incur, not the business that generated the problem that's created these costs to begin with. That's another problem. Okay, so now we're going to get to the good part. Why are shales so high? Why is the oil and gas industry on television running advertisements, and I'm assuming they're doing it here because they're doing it every place else I go, every 5 minutes, telling us that they are creating jobs like crazy, and that we don't have to worry about anything. Why are they doing this? I'm a bit of a contrarian. When I see that many ads on television, I step back and I think, why are they so desperate to convince me of this? Because clearly they're spending a hell of a lot of money to convince me of this, and that gives me pause. Here's why I think it is. What if I told you, believe it or not, this is contrary to what you read in the mainstream media, but what if I told you that there are deals out there being done right now by people like Warren Buffett and the executives at Google and so forth that are on core infrastructure projects that are giving revenues that are fixed for 20 to 25 years and double-digit returns. Now, as an investor and former investment advisor, that gets my attention because everyone's chasing yield right now. And to find double-digit returns is just unbelievable, and I thought that can't be right. Well, it is right, and it's being done on wind and solar projects. And these projects are the one that Warren Buffett is involved in on a solar project in California. Berkshire Hathaway they're saying that their annual rate of return right now is 16.3%. It's locked in for 20 years. Pretty good, huh? And what if I also told you that this clean economy, which includes these solar and wind projects, grew at over twice the rate of the regular economy during the economic downturn? So something's going on there behind the scenes, kind of, underground, that we're not really being told in the mainstream media. All of that's absolutely true. Here's the real job story, though. If you want to hear a job story, this blew me away when I started pulling these numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Let's look at direct industry jobs. I don't want to go into the strippers and prostitutes. I want to look at the people who are directly employed by the oil and gas industry. And that's about roughly 181,000 people, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Then I went in and I pulled the numbers reported. The BLS is not actually doing green energy jobs right now, but what they've started doing is they've been asking the different industry trade groups to provide them with numbers, and that will soon be up, hopefully, on the BLS numbers. So these are the trade groups reporting to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is basically exactly what the oil and gas industry does to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So they created 183,000 jobs. Now you say, well, so what? They're about the same. Yes, they are. But here's what's interesting. Oil and gas accounts for 45% of total electricity generated capacity in the U.S., whereas renewables are only accounting at present for 15%. That means that renewables are creating significantly more jobs per kilowatt generating capacity than the oil and gas industry. And in my opinion, that is not lost on the oil and gas industry, I can promise you. And that is why they're on television every 5 minutes telling us how great of a job creator they are, because they know they're not. And so I think that's a very, very interesting here's a statistic. Okay, this has never happened before, ever in the history of the U.S. In January of this year, 2013, we added 1,231 megawatts of new generating capacity, and all of it was in renewables. Not one kilowatt of generating capacity was added in oil and gas, coal, or nuclear, or hydro, electric power in January 2013. That's never happened in this country. So that represents a threefold increase year over year from 2012. So see, things are happening. We just aren't aware of it, but they're definitely happening. And as I stated, Berkshire Hathaway, Google, MetLife, lots of these, not lots, but a handful of these very large institutions they poured $500 million into renewable projects last year. Well, I would too if I was getting 16.3% locked in for 20 years. That's a no-brainer. So you can see we've got fundamentals of oil and gas. You've got a dwindling product line. You're not competing on direct job growth per kilowatt capacity. You've got volatile pricing, which will rise with scarcity. You have a troubling dependence on low ROEI fuels, and your pricing is tied to international markets. All this stuff about energy independence is total rubbish. We can never be energy independent on oil and gas because the markets are tied to international markets. It just isn't going to happen. Renewables, however, you have an unlimited supply of energy. It's renewable. You have significant job creation, much greater than oil and gas. You have power plants with no fuel costs. Now really stop and think about that. You have power plants with no fuel costs. It's a good hedge against volatile fossil fuel prices, which is exactly why we ought to be transitioning into renewables, if for no other reason than to just for the utilities, and this isn't lost on utilities, they're being a lot smarter than a lot of people give them credit for being. I think they're doing a great job right now. They recognize that they should not put all their eggs in the shale gas basket, in spite of what's coming out of Washington and what's coming out of the energy industry. And the pricing is not tied to international markets. If you want true energy independence, then you need it to be from wind, solar, and geothermal. To conclude here, this is the Barnett Shale. This is where I live, right about here. Every one of these dots is a pad site. This is what shale looks like when it really comes to town. We have 18,000 wells. Every one of these dots is not a well. It's a pad site with multiple wells, 3 to 24 wells on each one of these red dots. 20% of these, according to John Lee, ought to be profitable, right? This is what I was saying. Anybody can look at this and you can tell, you can be the staunchest Tea Party Republican and you can tell you're going to have problems with environmental degradation from this. Okay, the same pattern basically. This is taken from Texas Railroad Commission data. The blue is basically that same pattern of the wells. So it's that carpet of wells. Every place you see red are the wells that actually made money. The rest of them lost money. They weren't economic. And that's based on actual production history taken from the Texas Railroad Commission. So all of us who live in all of this area, we're living with the benzene, the formaldehyde, the ozone, etc. By the way, this is the Fort Worth now. Our childhood asthma rate is 25%. That's 3 times the national average. And there's a direct correlation between the explosion in childhood asthma and the explosion in gastro in the region. So you can see it's a little bit of a problem. So in conclusion, I'm going to quote you something from Warren Buffett. I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. It is so apropos of what's happening with shales and just the oil and gas industry in particular right now. And his quote is, he made this quote after the economic downturn in 2008, and it's, when the tide goes out, that's when you get to see who's been swimming naked all along.
So we do visions and values, and we think about, well, okay, who can we get right away? Deborah Rogers, courageous